Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Last person in buys the drinks, Emily. So welcome. Oh, wait, nope, you're not the last person in. You're buying the drinks, my man. All right, all right. Yeah, Jason's not here. We're going off script. We're going off script. Good morning. My name is Mark Richardson. I'm president and founder of Unfinished Business, LLC, which is a consulting company. I'm also co-chair of the DMI Board of Directors. And I want to welcome everybody here for the June What's Up Downtown Breakfast. What a good looking group this morning. Give yourselves a round of applause, huh? I'm not usually up this early. Everybody knows I'm the nighttime guy. Jason is out of town and Megan is down in Milwaukee. So you guys are getting the B team today, just so you know. So welcome for those who are here, full house here. And for those of you on Zoom, how many people on Zoom, Madeline? How many we got? 21. Welcome to the 21 people that are up north or at home or wherever you are. Thank you for coming. We've got a great featured speaker today, Joe. Now, I was going to say Lonis. It's Lanus. Not anything like it's spelled, just so you know. We have to check these things out. Joe Lanus, Chief Executive Officer of the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. And he's gonna give us some words of wisdom in a bit. But before we hear from Joe, we have a few DMI updates we'd like to share with you. First, I'd like to take this time to recognize a longtime DMI member, Loie Batterdine, who unexpectedly passed away recently. Loie was vice president and Madison office leader of GRAFE and an active member of the DMI Economic Development Committee. He attended DMI meetings, events regularly, and was a supporter of DMI for years. Loie will be greatly missed, but his impact on DMI, downtown, and the Madison community will be long lasting. Our condolences go out to Loie's family, friends, and colleagues at this time. Next, I'd like to recognize some new DMI members for the month of June. Joining DMI recently, we have Austin Kemp, a real estate agent from eXp Realty. Austin, are you in the room today? I just want to make sure I shout out anybody who made it down, okay? The Center for Community Stewardship, also known as C4CS, which is an organization that builds capacity of people and groups working to make their community better through facilitating community conversations and acting as a fiscal agent before they become full-fledged nonprofits. Lisa Dugdale is representing C4CS. Hilldale Towers, an apartment community located in Sheboygan Ave in Madison, has been a well-cared for and family-owned property since it was built. Brooke Saucier. Is Brooke here today? No? All right. Monair, the first AI-powered end-to-end HVAC management service for light commercial, represented by Nish Canapoli. No? We're batting 1,000. So whoever's here is going to win it all. Own It, Building Black Wealth, a private sector initiative designed and led by a diverse team of Madison area professionals in real estate, banking, and finance industries with a goal towards empowering, educating, and guiding communities of color towards home ownership. Sarah Alvarado is representing that group, and I know Sarah, and I do not see Sarah. So Lisa J. Smith will win it all. Lisa, hand in the air. No? All right. John wins everything. Yeah, yes, there you go. Round of applause for Smith Company, LLC. And thank you to all our new members this month. We're excited to get you involved and your participation. Next, be sure to mark your calendars. Here's the plug, right? Remember when during COVID, when you were thinking, oh, I wish these things would start up. You know, I would go to everything if they came back. Remember that? Well, guess what? Things are back. So grab your pencil, grab your paper. These are the things you will be going to the next few weeks and months. Madison Central Business Improvement District, also known as the BID, is hosting several events. There's the live and local concert series happening on Thursday evenings through August from 5 to 7 in Lisa Link Peace Park. There's your Lunchtime Live concert series. I believe that is across from the Park Hotel. I think that's the new location this year anyway. And that's going to be happening through August from 12 to 1. And then the BID and Greater State Street Business Association will be hosting the shopping extravaganza of the year. Maxwell Street Days is back. And so that will be happening from July 14th through the 17th. So yes, Let's give it a round of applause. So get back out there. Get back out there and get downtown and spend some time and spend some money. Next, I'd like to thank and recognize our sponsors for today's event. And we all know without our sponsors, none of this happens. And that's real talk. The What's Up Downtown series is made possible by a generous sponsorship with DMI, for DMI from Carlson Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg. Carlson Black, and many of you will recognize our next speaker. Carlson Black has the major sponsor for this series. I'd like to welcome Matt Carlson, a partner with Carlson Black, to the stage to say a few words. Come on up,
Matt. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the introduction. I'm Matt Carlson. I'm one of the partners and founders of Carlson Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg. We are truly honored to be the series sponsor for the breakfast. I'm joined by several colleagues here today. Wave your hands, Katie, Kyle, and Carissa, which is great. So thanks for joining us here early this morning. So I used to be a DMI board chair back a while ago, pre-COVID, and I have to say Mark is doing a great job. It is not easy for getting up early and being in front of people, especially as people come back into the rooms, thank goodness. So you're doing a great job. Thank you, Mark. But a little about the firm. So Carlson Black's focused on commercial real estate, land use, development, construction, cooperatives, business, and tax law, with over 125 years of combined collective experience representing clients in those areas. I'm proud to say that myself and my colleagues at Carlson Black have been involved in a lot of the different kind of unique, exciting redevelopment projects throughout Madison over the past 20 years, and have worked with a wide variety of clients, both owners, developers, construction companies, and businesses. So this is a great platform for us as a company to help get our name out, and for all of you in terms of your businesses and your individual practices to be engaged with DMI. So one of the first things that we wanted to do when we formed the firm was to become a member of DMI because of the opportunities like this to be on a regular basis with fellow business folks in the community, as well as other people who are committed to the downtown and its overall success. So it's great to be here this morning. Wonderful speakers as usual, and look forward to seeing all of you at future breakfasts, both in person as much as possible and also virtually. So I'm going to turn it back to Mark, but thank you, Mark.
It's good to see you again, Matt. I was a wee pup on the board when Matt was board chair, and he let me stick around. So thanks for that. So thank you, Matt, and thanks to Carlson Black for your ongoing support of DMI and downtown Madison. The What's Up Downtown series is also made possible by our supporting series sponsors, Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, State Bank of Cross Plains, TDS Telecom, who is a new member, relatively new member, and jumped in right away to help support the programs. The Edgewater Hotel, of course, this great location we're in. UW Health, Unity Point Health Meritor, and Quartz. We thank these sponsors for their generous contributions for the help that they've presented us this morning to make this event possible. Let's give them a round of applause too. And finally, thank you to today's rotating monthly sponsor, Urban Land Interests. We greatly appreciate ULI for their support of today's program and are pleased to welcome Emily Mail, managing broker at ULI, to briefly say a few words. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you for having me this morning, and Chris, thanks for introducing me. Just a little bit about Urban Land. I think most of you are, familiar with some of the work that we have done, but Urban Land Interest has been committed to creating and managing quality office and residential buildings in downtown Madison for over 40 years, with a focus on the Capitol Square. We're a local firm that improves its properties with the goal of positively contributing to the communities that we're a part of. Downtown Madison is a lot of things to a lot of different people: an employment destination, an entertainment destination, a public forum, and home. Few Madison institutions are as special as Madison Chamber Orchestra's annual Concerts on the Square series. So thank you for the work that you do to bring the community together downtown Madison. Urban Land Interest is also proud to continue our support for DMI and grateful for the work that DMI does. Connecting organizations and people committed not to just preserving downtown Madison, but to meeting the challenges of today and innovating for a bright future. So thank you to everybody who is here and your commitment to downtown, and thank you. It's great to see everybody in person again.
Okay. Joe Lanus, this is your life. It is now my pleasure to welcome and introduce one of our featured speaker for this morning's breakfast, Joe Lanus. This is weird when you sit and people read about you and here you have to sort of sit there and take it. So guess what? Sit there and take it. Joe's been the Chief Executive Officer for the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra since fall of 2019. You know, not much has happened since then. Prior to WCO, Joe served as Executive Director of the First Tee of South Central Wisconsin, a global youth development organization teaching and reinforcing life skills through the game of golf. Joe earned an MBA in finance from the University of Wisconsin and holds a bachelor's degree in cello performance from Lawrence University. He served on the advisory board of UW-Madison School of Business, and I might be getting the hook. Knew this was coming. Yes, cello performance, Lawrence University. Served on the advisory board of UW-Madison Business School and gave its commencement speech. Post-undergrad, Joe pursued his dream of playing golf on the PGA Tour. Not much happening there either. Yeah, just thought I'd throw that joke grenade and see what happened. Love to talk to you about the live golf situation later, offline. Joe played professionally on tours in Florida and competed in over 75 events, finishing in top 5 in several tournaments. That is awesome. As a musician, Joe became a professional orchestral cellist at the age of 16 and became the youngest player to attain a tenured position in Green Bay Symphony Orchestra. He played in 4 orchestras in Wisconsin and was principal cellist at the Vero Beach Chamber Orchestra. He has soloed with 3 orchestras and has taught over 50 students privately and continues to teach. We are pleased to have Joe with us this morning to talk about the role of today's orchestras and that they have in our communities and the return of Concerts on the Square on Wednesday, Motown theme. Let's hear that. Let's hear it for that. Following Joe's presentation, we'll be taking questions from the audience. For those of you in person, just throw your hand in the air. For those of you on Zoom, please use the Q&A function and submit your questions, and we'll get to as many as we can. So with that, I'd like to welcome Joe Lanus.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and thanks to the sponsors and for Mark for hosting this and DMI. Yeah, Concerts on the Square is happening in less than a week. We're excited to get this back to downtown. What I wanted to talk about today is, the role of today's orchestras have in the community. And my hope for today is when you leave here, I hope you take away from my presentation. Well, first off, I think a lot of people may think that an orchestra and going to the orchestra is an isolated musical event where you go to the hall, enjoy a 2-hour musical experience, and then you go home. But I want you to take away the idea that an orchestra can and is a vital part of the community, using its resources and creative and cultural capital to help advance and drive meaningful societal change. So there's a lot going on with orchestras, and I hope to sort of provide you a little bit of context as we bring back Concerts on the Square downtown. So today's framework kind of starts 3 weeks ago. I'm in LA. I'm at the League of American Orchestras conference. At the League of American Orchestras, I'm going to read their mission. The mission of the League of American Orchestras is to lead, encourage, support, and serve orchestras as they assure the vitality of the musical experience, strengthen the entire orchestra organization, and deepen their connections with their public and their communities. So I'm there. I started in fall of 2019. COVID happens in 6 months. I don't have a lot of opportunity to kind of get enmeshed in industry and kind of understand the context. We're sort of in innovative and survival mode. So I'm at this conference and we're at the opening talk at Disney World Studio Hall, and Simon Woods, the president and CEO of the League of American Orchestras, gives this talk. And I was really blown away by his talk. I've been following him for a couple years. And he says, there are 3 defining issues for the orchestra field that will fuel artistic creativity, impact, and sustainability. So I wanted to frame today's talk within these 3 things. And the first one's already up on the screen. I have my clicker here. He talked about how building a new audience, the promise of diversity, and relevance and community meaning are going to define the U.S. orchestra moving forward coming out of COVID. So that's my framework for today. And I'm going to walk through just a few things, both industry and within the WCO. So next slide, that's me and my parents. This is taken in 2006. I'm looking at this and my parents look so young. So that must mean I look equally as young because we both age at the same rate. But this is 2006. I'm 21. I am a senior in college at Lawrence University at the Green Bay Symphony Orchestra, Mark mentioned, graduating from Lawrence University. And I put this up here because I remember the feeling when I started playing for this group at age 16, the feeling of performance, of being on stage and connecting with my colleagues and connecting with the audience, the sense of pride for delivering these amazing masterworks to the Green Bay community. And I had a little fan club. I had all these Laurentians come up from Appleton. It's about a 40-minute drive. Even though they had a world-class conservatory across the street from their residence halls, they drove up 40 minutes to come see me play. And I had a little fan club over there. And just the excitement they had to come and support a friend. And I left kind of that experience after I graduated college. I went to Florida and played golf. This question of, you have these musicians, we're on stage performing, you have the audience, and what is that connection and dialogue apart from the music? As Mark said, I'm a golfer. Part of the why I watch the Masters or the US Open, not live golf yet, I haven't gone to the dark side, is the stories behind the players, in that context, golf, and the people on stage at the Green Bay Symphony were just fascinating people. So that always was a question for me leaving the professional playing world, is how are we connecting with our audience? So I went to college, went away, and when I came back from music, I got my MBA, as Mark said, and I was teaching cello, and this is my first admin job. CEO of the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. I had previous nonprofit executive experience. I had no industry experience in admin with the WC or with orchestras. And then a couple weeks ago, I got this industry context from LA. So my mindset today with where we're at as a field and as an organization, I'm in this learning reflection moment, this assimilation of COVID innovations that we had, the industry context that I'm learning, and really a sense of urgency for this field to really sink in and lean into what we can do to transform communities. So that's kind of where I'm at today as I speak with you. So building a new audience, a couple points here. When I talk to you about Green Bay Symphony and what's that connection between audience and the musicians, when COVID hit, one of the things we did was we went to digital. We had chamber productions, we had the Sylvie, Kurt, you're here, thank you. We had some amazing partnerships with MyArts and the Sylvie to do these digital chamber series. And we wanted to highlight the musicians. So we had musician interviews, and more than just what they do on the performance stage, we wanted to highlight what they did off the performance stage and giving our audience a chance to meet the people behind the music. So I have a little 2-minute clip of some of the interviews so you get a chance to meet some of the musicians of the WCO. So here's my first of several videos.
Work as a musician has taken me all over the world. Most recently, I went to Rwanda to collaborate with many local artists of all different disciplines to write an original musical play that commemorated the 25th anniversary of the genocide.
Working musicians are some of the most wonderful working class people you'll ever meet. So musicians tend to be very, very social creatures, but very, very down to earth and warm people. And that's a side of us you may not always see as an audience member.
Devotion to your vocation is everything as you're studying. But then, you know, as you move on in life, and I had a family, we started to peek out into the world and see what else is out there. I've always been an advocate of fitness. If you asked any one of us what other music we play, you'd hear a lot. I have explored a lot more in the rock world over my past decade.
Outside of performing, I mean, I love to do outdoors type things. I'm a biker. I like to bike a lot, do some running. My wife and I have done half marathons in the past, and hopefully I'll get back to the shape where I can do that again. We'll see.
Being a performer helps my teaching, and it's just a part of what I do as a violist, as a player. And I feel like if I'm not playing with others, then I'm not growing. I really enjoy the outlet. What I love about teaching is really working with the students. And I can be having a grumpy day, and after teaching a couple of lessons, I always feel better. It's really very uplifting. I get lots of energy from them.
I got to play with some of the best musicians on the planet in Southern California. So I know what that standard is. And my colleagues here, I mean, not only are they brilliant players, they can play anything, but they're also, we're like a family.
So I always love watching that. Just you get to see the people behind the music that you're watching on stage. Any music genre, any sport, I just love the context of the humans that do it, because it's relatable then. Even if you can't play a cello concerto, you can't hit a drive 300 yards, there's that context. So I really, really appreciate the opportunity to get our musicians and get that human piece behind that. So Simon Woods, I mentioned Simon Woods, League of American Orchestras. We're talking about audience development. What does our community want and need from us next season? So this is a couple weeks ago. How do we build a future audience following a pandemic that has disrupted decades of attendance habits? How might our individual business goals better align in service of longer-term institutional growth? He did an article a couple weeks ago talking about how our current audience, we're losing more audience members than we're replenishing from the same pool of audiences. So when you think about your customers, like, how do you find those new customers? And that's really a critical moment, and has been for the orchestra field for decades. How are we going to generate that new audience? And he has a really interesting framework to think about as we're looking at our business plan and thinking about how do we attract new customers or new audience. And this is probably true of other industries, but the segmentation of, say, your marketing department, your community engagement department, in our case, our product lines, our artistic planning. I was talking to Andrew about this yesterday a little bit, but how do our cross-functional parts in our business, the community engagement folks, thinking about that through the lens of audience development, our marketing department, thinking about not just the audiences that are at our fingertips and we can replenish, but how do you systemically and sustainably market to new audiences? And then how do you sit down with your artistic planners to think about and imagine a season that is relevant to more people and new audiences? So it's the challenge and the opportunity of artistic planning in today's modern orchestra is how do we holistically think about what does a new audience with our existing audience want and need from that community. So right here, you know, we have Andrew. In January, we came back to Capitol Theater. We had in January, we're all masked at the Capitol Theater on January 28th. And the other image is I wanted to show you, we started post-concert talks. So after the concert, you as an audience member, you stay in the audience, you talk to Andrew and the guest artist. The two guests we have here are composer in residence, which I'll talk about later, Dr. Bill Banfield. He's center stage here. And then to his left is Patrice Rushen, who is just a phenomenal human and musician. She was a pop artist, a jazz musician. She has won many awards, and she's now a full-fledged professor, composer out in LA. And we played both of their pieces on the first concert. And they talked about how getting the audience feedback of their compositions and getting that context and getting that dialogue between the audience members enriches their composition, but it also enriches the audiences so they understand how and why they're creating music for our time. So I thought these were really cool pictures to show from the January performance. I want to end this part of my talk with something I've learned out in LA. There's this guy named Alan Brown, principal of Wolf Brown. He's a leading researcher and management consultant in the arts and culture sector worldwide. And he talked to us as artistic leaders of your product is, you know, it's sort of a mental, sort of an imagining sort of exercise where you come and listen to music. But the way the world is moving and shifting, it's becoming more sensorial. It's much more immersive and active. You have active participants in the installations in different various art forms. So we really encouraged us as an orchestra field to start an R&D department in your orchestra shop, develop new product lines, test, really immersive ways to engage in content. So I'm going to play you this. This is from the Philharmonia Orchestra. I think this happened several years ago, but it shows an example of some orchestras that are looking at their products a little more immersively to kind of meet the demands of today's consumer.
The VR soundstage is the latest installation created by the Philharmonia Orchestra.
Huh?
And to put it simply, imagine
what does that look like for the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra? He said, go back to your markets, partner with your institutions, partner with industry, and start to test some things, start to bring your ideas back to the field. And one of the things Andrew and I, the musicians, did over the pandemic is we really were beta testing some different ways of digital content. So we're sort of in that mindset, I think. And I think over the next 12 to 18 months, I really want to explore industry partnerships, university partnerships, to start to test different ways to deliver our content and make it more relevant to the modern day consumer. So I thought that was a really cool example that the Philharmonic Orchestra in the UK is doing. So the next framework for today's talk. So Simon Wood says, the promise of diversity. I think the orchestra field has been way behind in thinking about diversity along racial, gender, socioeconomic for far too long. And I was really encouraged in LA that everyone in the field is hyper-focused and has been for several years or even the past decade on how do we move this field and orchestra forward to be more relevant to more people. So I got a couple slides I want to share with you what's happening in the industry. The first one I want to share is this organization out of Detroit called Sphinx Organization. Has anybody heard of Sphinx? Bridget and Andrew? So their mission and vision, we transform lives through the power of diversity in the arts. So this group was established in 1997, and their main charge was to increase representation of Black and Latinx artists in classical music. This is a phenomenal organization. They do anything from serving beginning students, classical music professionals, administrators, and cultural entrepreneurs. And there's this vision that they have, and they work closely with orchestras around the country that every young person has the opportunity to express themselves and learn classical music. The audience reflects the people we see on our streets, and leadership includes all deserving voices. And they offer year-round tuition. They have premier ensembles that tour all around the country. They commission and do performances of new works by Black and Latinx composers. They do leadership, culture, innovation programs, entrepreneurship programs, and they have sector-wide partnerships with 300 plus organizations to serve the field. It's a phenomenal organization. We've partnered with them. We're one of their orchestra partners, the National Alliance for Audition Support. And what the NAAS is, it provides mentoring, audition prep, and financial support, and audition previews. So in the orchestra field, we have what's called blind auditions. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but when orchestral players want to audition for the orchestra, they go behind a blind audition, and this happened, I think, in the 70s, if I recall. This organization is taking that to the next level and trying to think of other barriers that are inhibiting orchestra players from getting in the field of orchestras. For example, we've done away with reviewing resumes. We're looking at musicians on their musicianship, not what school they went to or who they know. But the NAAS, one of the things we're starting to do through this group is we're hiring orchestra-ready group of professionals from this group. So this summer at Concerts on the Square, we're going to have some orchestras players in our substitute ranks playing with WCO at Concerts on the Square, getting acclimated to the community and becoming more familiar with the organization. Another group that they do, or another thing they provide that we are working with, is the Sphinx Orchestral Partners auditions. So these are pre-screened auditions where music directors like Andrews and others will listen to dozens or even hundreds of orchestra musical excerpts from these musician-ready players to come on audition at the WCO, and we have various rounds of auditioning, and we can advance them to future rounds. So it's a great organization, and we're certainly excited to partner with them. The other thing, I see my slides up, what I found in LA, there's this Institute for Composer Diversity. So Dr. Rob Deemer and Dr. Corey Meals, from 2015 to 2022, looked at 130 orchestras' compositions. In 2015, 95% of music, the repertoire that was selected was by white male composers, and less than 5% were women composers or composers of color. And they wanted to see, is the orchestra field moving to more gender equality and racial equality? There's been a steady growth. I think there's been a 400% increase in the last 6 to 7 years in terms of what we play, which is very important. A lot of the composers you think of in orchestras, Brahms, Beethoven, Mozart, from the 18th century European classical music genre, but there are some incredible composers that are making music in America today that are starting to get more of a footprint in the orchestral stream. And I know we're at the WCO looking to very much increase our representation in what we play. And you see here, there's a 200% increase in living composers. So again, we have amazing body of living composers that are with us here in America and here in Europe. So there's a lot of good stuff happening in the field. We're certainly not done. We'll never be done, but I'm excited that we're on that journey with some of these initiatives within the industry. The other thing I want to highlight here is the League of American Orchestras started a Catalyst Incubator program in 2017. It was a response to an urgent need for American orchestras to create a solid organizational foundation for equity, diversity, and inclusion. $8 million has invested thus far in this program. We were very fortunate last October to be the recipient of a very competitive grant process, one of 20 orchestras in the US. So we received this award, and there's 19 other orchestras, Atlanta Symphony, Youth Orchestra of San Antonio, Minnesota Orchestra. We're in a lockstep cohort for the next 3 years to learn together. And part of that work is to hire a local consultant. We hired Nehemiah to work with us on our equity, diversity, inclusion initiatives, our internal culture, and how do we begin to have that structural change with the organization so that we can also move that in lockstep with how we think about our repertoire and our audience development initiatives. So again, a really phenomenal opportunity that we have and what the orchestra field is providing. Last thing for the framework, so Simon Wood says relevance and community meeting. We're always talking about, like, how are we relevant? How are we not relevant? How can we be more relevant? Concerts on the Square. It's happening in 6 days, whether I wanted to or not. It's happening. It's been in this community for 39 years, and it's brought in about 5 million people to downtown since inception. We are so fortunate, this community and this organization, to have something like Concerts on the Square in our community, bringing free live classical music to downtown Madison, and the vendors that participate, and the 50,000 people a week that are there. And we talk a lot about, well, what is the economic driver? There's some calculators, but we estimate that about $6 million of economic activity every summer is generated to downtown Madison. So we think about the impact of DMI, our opportunity and ability to leverage Concerts on the Square to bring the vitality of downtown back. So we're really excited. And Andrew has created an incredible program for us this summer, artistically, with some local partnerships. We're bringing Motown next week that you mentioned. So here's a short video. This is one of our promos, but it kind of shows you sort of the scale of Concerts on the Square and our excitement to return.
The Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra's Concerts on the Square returns to Madison this summer.
Like watching that. So we're really excited. And Concerts on the Square, when I mentioned this to some of the colleagues in LA, I said, yeah, we do these 6 free summer concert events for 40, 50,000 people a week. They said, what? You are? You do? You have people coming to see you? You have a downtown that supports it? So I think this is something that Madison can really be proud of. And when we think about community relevance, I mean, we have this opportunity and this privilege really to continue this great tradition for Madison. Another thing I want to point out in this talk is, I don't know, it was February 2021. We're in the heart of the pandemic, and Andrew Sewell, our music director, calls me and says, Joe, I have an idea. I have a colleague who I went to grad school with. His name is Dr. Bill Banfield. I've programmed some of his works through my time in various orchestras for the last 30 years. We've stayed in touch. I really think we should talk about having a composer in residence. And a composer in residence for an orchestra is not uncommon, but it's gaining traction. And I looked, when I thought about this presentation today and what was the impetus for this residency program, I want to read to you what we put as one of our main reasons for establishing this residency. The goal of the residency will be to centrally embed Dr. Banfield into the orchestra's artistic operations, as well as the larger community in ways that foster collaboration and creativity. Dr. Banfield will play a vital role in strengthening the artistic's relationship with existing audiences while reaching new and more diverse audiences in the larger community. The composer-orchestra relationship is a vital symbiosis with strong benefits for both partners and rich possibilities for enhancing an orchestra's ability to deliver public value to its community. So he's a phenomenal human being. He has a great relationship with Andrew, and I want to play you an interview that we took of him and how he thinks about his time here in Madison for the next 3 years. So this is Dr. Bill Banfield.
My name is Bill Banfield. I'm the composer in residence with the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra, and here to do music and culture and hang out with the community and make the next great good song. One of the things that becomes real apparent today is that there's so much music that's in the world that people have access to, but who actually makes the music is the question that I think is important when we talk about artists and citizenry. It's understanding the different roles of the musicians, the composers, the producers, and how they fit into the fabric of a community. What does the art maker, the composer, the melody maker, the song maker do? And I think a lot of us believe the role of the artist is to impact the world that we live in, to be aware of the needs of the community, and then how you set that up in some kind of mechanism to share that, whether it's a band or an orchestra, a symphony, opera. And I think that the role of the musician actually is to try to make that connection. And the way you make that connection in the community is to be in the community. I use Jimi Hendrix to talk about the way in which he saw himself, and what they were doing innovatively was creating what he called the electric church. And he said, these days, what people hear is electricity and noise. But he says, our noise doesn't bounce off the ears, it goes into the heart. and it transforms people. And so we take our electric music and we infuse it with a feeling about what it is that we mean to make people wake up. And this whole idea of waking up the spirit and the soul, that really fired me up, even as an older person, trying to convey what is it we mean when we use our music to transform the communities we live in. We use our music to have a way to connect to the world that we're in, and we expect that to be a transformative experience.
Yeah, I've had meetings with him. I just sit there for an hour and just listen to him, and then I have to realize that there was an agenda and I have to bring him back. But he's a real deep thinker, and we're so blessed in this community to have Dr. Bill Banfield. He'll be in town July 13th. It's our third Concerts on the Square. His first of several projects with us. Well, actually, we've done a few already. It's a world premiere called Testimony of Tone, Tune, and Time, using the narration of Frederick Douglass, the great leader and abolitionist. And we have speakers, we have faith leaders, we have a saxophonist from Brooklyn. If you're free on July 13th, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's very powerful, and he is such a dynamic individual. And we've had him for about a year. We've established relationships with the UW community, with Dane Arts, with the youth community, with East High School. So we're really testing how does the role of the orchestra, the composer, and the community come together to transform and to elevate sort of how we view ourselves and the world around us through music. So very exciting, and we have them until 2024, but my guess is we will have them for longer than that. The last thing I want to highlight in terms of orchestra's role in providing relevance and meaning, we have to talk about our youth, and I want to share with you some of the programs that we work with here in town. So Family Series is a program that Andrew started several years ago, and it's their family-friendly events that provide musical concepts in a very exciting, approachable way. This was taken at Madison College just a couple months ago with a program called El Salon Mexico, with a piece from Aaron Copland. And we had 400, 500 kiddos from the community come on a snowy Saturday morning to get entertained by these local artists, but really having that engagement. And what's really cool about this program is we've partnered with MMSD next year, where we're going to perform this piece for several thousand people, both at East High School and West High School next, I believe it's next April. So this is, think of it as an introductory engagement of orchestras with kiddos in our community. I talk about Dr. Bill Banfield and school engagement. We established a really cool partnership with East High School, where he comes in and talks to the future composers and band leaders at East High School. This is him, I think, in October of last year. And he played music. He played Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. He played Ella Fitzgerald. He played just this eclectic array of music, and these kids are just leaning in like, what? I thought he was going to talk to me about orchestras, but he just was providing so much context on how orchestras today have been infused and influenced by jazz and by blues, and it's just a really cool partnership that we're going to look to continue. He's going to come back and compose with some of these artists next year. Side by side, we have a great partnership with Wisconsin Youth Symphony Orchestra. Every year or every other year, we work with aspiring musicians in the Youth Symphony, that they get to sit on stage with our professional musicians and put a program together. And as Andrew says, the performance is the cherry on top. The real magic in the work is the mentorship that happens on stage when you're with a professional musician next to a younger musician and you're working and workshopping through. So I've been told that some of these alums of WISO say this is one of their culminating moments of their time in the WISO program. So we're really proud of that partnership. And one of the last partnerships that I'm really passionate about is our Super Strings program, which started around 2016. This is more of a mentoring-based program, introducing kiddos to stringed instruments, cello, violin, in more of a one-on-one mentorship role. And the aim here is to build a relationship. And we have partnerships with Big Brother, Big Sister, Lucier Community Education Center, and we're starting one with Northport Apartments next fall. So education is near and dear to our heart as an organization. Our orchestras have a youth and education focus, and we can't wait to expand that in the months and years ahead. So that's what I have for you. It's a very exciting time to be in the field. Like I said, one of learning, but also a sense of urgency as we continue to find ways to provide more relevance to our communities. And we can't wait to bring back Concerts on the Square in 6 days. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions. What's that? Yeah, happy to take some questions. Yeah.
Good morning. Great presentation. Thank you. You indicated it's your 39th year. Do you have big plans for the 40th?
Yeah. Yes, sir. We do. It's obviously it's kind of a mile marker, and you know, as I keep referencing Andrew, we have such an incredible artistic lineup this year. I don't envy his position to get ready for 40, but yeah, we want to do something magical. We want to bring in more community partners. I think I'll start thinking about that in earnest August 4th, unless we have a rain delay, then August 5th. But yeah, I think it's a huge celebration and accomplishment for this community to not only have it for this long, but do it during COVID. I mean, we did 2 performances at Breese Stevens for 25 people. This is pre-vaccine, and we streamed it. And then last year we were able to do a regular season. So just the tenacity of this community to keep this going. So, yeah. Sure. Yeah, so last year, if you either saw our live feed or you were at Breese Stevens, we brought a big Jumbotron behind the orchestra to provide that visual element. We got approval 3 days ago from the Deputy Chief of Capitol to put the screens on the square. We already planned for it. So we have 2 screens on the square. One's gonna be by Park Hotel. So it's kind of framed up by some trees. So it's kind of its own like amphitheater to see if we can move density. And then we have another screen that'll be behind the table area facing in. So the primary spot. So, you know, we just want to continue to elevate that experience, make it more accessible. So screens, we have a signature drink this summer called the Maestro Mule. It's a wine-based ginger beer can that we had a kickoff party last night, and everybody loved it, so that's fun. I mentioned Dr. Bill Banfield's world premiere. We have this incredible partnership with Wisconsin Dells Singers, Elliott Funmaker. The 4th concert is the Planets in Ho-Chunk, so we're gonna have 16 to 18 Ho-Chunk dancers on the 4th performance. But you're gonna see sort of the usual, the blanket section, the table section, but really excited to see how the screens go this summer, yeah. Hi, Susan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Joe, I think we all know, I know very well, and you know very well, I've been involved with the organization for so many years, fortunately, that the biggest gift of Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra is a concert on the square for free. It is for everyone, because as we all know, music is free for people. In terms of you don't have to pay for it. It's something that comes from a greater place. Anyway, so, and that is the beauty of what you guys have done for 39 years. So could you just talk a little bit about the challenges with that, and in terms of keeping you guys financially in a financial good place? Because people, I know the audience has never, it's hard for them to, and there's a question here, but I know it's hard for them to understand, well, yeah, it's free. It's free. No, it really can't be if you're going to continue to do that. So could you talk about the challenges of bringing in funds to keep this going and how important that is?
It's an important question.
Yeah.
So it's $1 million to do this event. It's funded by very generous corporate support, foundation support. Many of you in the room have supported this, our table section. So that's the lion's share. We have concessions, we sell merchandise, but yeah, I mean, this year I was kind of the primary fundraiser for the event, and yeah, it's $1 million to do, and it's almost like a moral obligation for our organization to do this. So it's challenging, it's rewarding. It's 40% of our annual budget, probably 60 to 70% of our sweat equity. We have a team of 7 to 10, so it's an enormous undertaking. So while it's free in the sense you can put a blanket, it costs us $1 million to do. So one thing we're launching this year, it's called the Friends of the WCO membership program. So it's a sustaining philanthropic membership program, $5 a month. So if you're on the blanket and you feel there's this, I'm getting elevated by this experience, let's join the Friends. So 250,000 people show up. 1% of them become a friend of the chamber orchestra. That takes care of 10 to 15% of the budget. And I think about this when I go to East Side festivals. I live on like, how's this elevating my life? So I'm constantly finding ways to fund in my own way free art, because we know the people, the artists and the institutions, it's not free. So that's something we're going to promote this year. But yeah, it's stressful, but it's good stress because we know what it does for this community. Yeah.
Joe, I just wanted to say how great it was that you were able to do concerts off the square last year at Reese Stevens. And I'm just curious how that came about, that idea, and making it work with social distancing and wearing masks. And I imagine that was a challenge that you've never had before. And, you know, so if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah. I'm getting PTSD from all that. So it's March 14th, 2020. I'm 6 months into my role. Governor Evers says we're shutting down the state. We're 75% to completion on a complete rebrand overhaul. So huge major investment. We're all sitting there on Google Hangouts for the first time like, oh, what the hell? What? And I bring up the rebranding because we were in this innovative, regenerative mindset already going into the pandemic. So when that happened, we weren't thinking about, well, crap, we can't do concerts on the square. We were thinking, well, how are we going to launch the brand and mount concerts on the square in whatever environment? So part of it was a mindset, and I had an incredible team around me. Our staff is just incredible. So we pushed it back a month, and then, or 1st of July, we pushed it back another month and did 2 concerts. There's no vaccines. There's no orchestra that has performed live since COVID, full ensemble. Orchestras are trying shields. They're trying, remember the time when we had to wash our vegetables and everything? So Players Committee comes in, our union comes in. We're talking to other artistic leaders in the field. What are you doing? So we knew we were going to put on a concert. We didn't know how, but the mechanics of it were at Breese Stevens Field. The restrictions were 25 people outside could congregate. So we had 12 two-tops. Our wind sections were 15 feet apart with sound shields, masked when they weren't playing. The strings were 9 feet apart. God bless his heart, Sam Pablo, our director of operations, between every rehearsal had these little sprayers spraying disinfectant. We had masks. And August 25th, 2020, I'll never forget it. We brought back Jeans and Classics and did Come Together. And that day, we were one of only 3 orchestras in the country that played since COVID, like full orchestra. So I remember just sitting there, all that work we did, and I'm just, that first, and I'm like, wow, we did it. And I had a smile on my face for that whole week. And I have a picture of it on my office to remind what it took to get there. So, and then as you go, we restrictions shape shifted and everything, but man, that was, but again, it's almost like our moral obligation as artistic institutions, we're there to serve our community. So it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of how. And we somehow did it, and Andrew put together a great product like he usually does. And I think we had 5,000 people stream. It was our first ever live simulcast in like 30 countries. Like, we have all these incredible stories about how we innovated, but that was a very proud moment for the organization that we kept it going. And here we are 6 days without breaking the streak. We're able to do it with Motown next Wednesday. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, you can tell how proud Joe is of that moment, right? And of sort of getting there. And I think that's how proud we should be of this organization and of what they're able to do. And so let's give Joe another round of applause. And if there's anything that DMI can do to help, just let us know, and we'll be there. There should be behind me. No, we don't have the logos up. Let's throw the logos up of our sponsors. Let's remember to thank Carlson Black, O'Callahan, Battenberg, Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, State Bank of Cross Plains, TDS Telecom, ULI, the Edgewater, UW Health, Unity Point Health Meritor, and Quartz. If you run into anybody from those companies, those organizations, thank them for supporting DMI. And we are adjourned.